Hello, I'm back for another chapter of Charlotte's Web by E.B. White, and this time our chapter is called A Talk at Home. It's going to be another short chapter, but I hope you enjoy it anyway. On Sunday morning, Mr. and Mrs. Arbel and Fern were sitting at breakfast in the kitchen. Avery had finished and was upstairs looking for his slingshot. "Did you know that Uncle Homer's goslings have hatched?" asked Fern. "How many?" asked Mr. Arbel. "7," replied Fern. "There were 8 eggs, but 1 egg didn't hatch, and the goose told Templeton she didn't want it anymore, so he took it away." "The goose did what?" asked Mrs. Arbel, gazing at her daughter with a queer and worried look. "She told Templeton she didn't want the egg anymore," repeated Fern. "Who's Templeton?" asked Mrs. Arbel. "He's the rat," replied Fern. "None of us like him much." "Who's us?" asked Mr. Arbel. "Oh, everybody in the barn. Wilbur and the sheep and the lambs and the goose and the gander and the goslings and Charlotte and me." "Charlotte?" said Mrs. Arbel. "Who's Charlotte?" "She's Wilbur's best friend. She's terribly clever." "Well, what does she look like?" asked Mrs. Arbel. "Well, said Fern thoughtfully. "Well, she has 8 legs. All spiders do, I guess." "Charlotte is a spider?" asked Fern's mother. Fern nodded. "A big gray one. She has a web across the top of Wilbur's doorway. She catches flies and sucks their blood. Wilbur adores her." "Does he really?" asked Mrs. Arbel, rather vaguely. She was staring at Fern with a worried expression on her face. "Oh, yes, Wilbur adores Charlotte," said Fern. "Do you know what Charlotte said when the goslings hatched?" "I haven't the faintest idea," said Mr. Arbel. "You tell us." "Well," said Fern, "when the first gosling stuck its little head out from under the goose, I was sitting on my stool in the corner, and Charlotte was on her web. She made a speech. She said, 'I am sure that every one of us here in the barn cellar will be gratified to learn that after 4 weeks of effort and patience on the part of the goose, she now has something to show for it. Don't you think that was a pleasant thing for her to say?'" "Oh, yes, I do," said Miss Arbel. "And now, Fern, it's time to get ready for Sunday school. And tell Avery to get ready. And this afternoon, you can tell me more about what goes on in Uncle Homer's barn. You're spending quite a lot of time there, aren't you? You go there almost every afternoon, right?" "I like it there," replied Fern. She wiped her mouth and ran upstairs. After she had left the room, Mrs. Arbel spoke in a low voice to her husband. "I worry about Fern," she said. "Did you hear the way she rambled on about the animals, pretending they can talk?" Mr. Arbel chuckled. "Maybe they do talk," he said. "I've sometimes wondered. Well, at any rate, don't worry about Fern. She's just got a lively imagination. Kids think they hear all sorts of things." "Just the same, I do worry about her," replied Mrs. Arbel. "I think I'll ask Dr. Dorian about her next time I see him. He loves Fern almost as much as we do, and I want him to know just how odd she's acting about that pig and everything. I don't think it's normal. You know perfectly well, animals don't talk." Mr. Arbel grinned. "Maybe our ears just aren't listening as well as Fern's," he said. And that's the end of our very short chapter. We're going to have chapter 9 next. But for right now, remember to check your old predictions, make a new prediction for chapter 9, and you should be done your storyboard by now for chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But if you're not done your storyboard for chapters 1 through 6, make sure you're working on that, finishing that up. If you haven't colored it yet, you could color it in. And next time, we'll have a new chapter for new predictions. All right, remember to check your old prediction, make a new one, and I'll see you next time. Bye!